Where do you see the shift? One of the things I wanted to talk to you today about was because we begin mini camps and Eagles begin mini camp, and we talk about trends in the league, and the Eagles defense last year was just obviously spectacular, right? We'll figure out who's going to be at corner. Is it Kaylee Ringo going to win that job? We got to worry about the other linebacker spot. Is that Trot Jr.? We talk about depth along the edge, but what's the next trend defensively? Like when you study, because one of the things you do with breakdowns is you're seeing this stuff, right? So what are you seeing trends-wise defensively?
Well, if you look at, say, Denver last year, Denver had a great defense last year, carried the team while Bo Nix, gradually got better. But they led the league with 63 sacks. But if you watched how they got their sacks, they were a lot of reduced front, meaning a bare front. They were covering up the two guards in the center. And then they had their two outs, Benito, they had their outside linebackers, right? So they were a five-man rush team. Well, if you're rushing five, you're almost always playing man coverage. So, and they had the defensive player of the year in Surtain. Now they just go get Jahdae Barron, who is probably the best corner in this draft, pure corner. Not that Travis Hunter won't be a great corner, but he's probably the best pure corner in this draft. And so now you go, okay, you got Riley Moss, you got Jaquan McMillan, right? Now you got Jahdae Barron and you got Surtain. Like Vance Joseph is going to play man coverage. Yeah. They're going to rush five. And so you rush five, most teams want to try to get five guys out. Okay, well, you got 5 one-on-ones. Well, Zach Allen had like 38 quarterback hits, right? You look at, DJ Jones, you look at John Franklin Myers, like all those guys can win one-on-ones. In addition, Benito had 16 sacks. So that's, to me, if you could hold up in man coverage and rush five, the Eagles, their change up last year was to go to a 6-1. Zach Vaughn would go to an outside linebacker. They played a reduced front. So now you got Jalen Carter one-on-one. Now you got Nolan Smith out here. Now you got Zach Vaughn, who's a good rusher. Yeah. That's what he was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You got him rush from the outside. Now you're basically saying, okay, Quinyon, Keeley or Slay last year, you got to hold up. All right, we're going to get there, but you got to hold up while we get there. Like I think we're going to see a lot more man. Like everybody was talking about cover 2 zone last year, and you can't get the ball over the top. Well, I'd rather get to the quarterback. I'd rather send 5 or 6 and get to the quarterback and hold up. Not in zero, not blitz zero like Spags, but hold up in man coverage, for 2.5 seconds and let Jalen Carter go win one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah, which is smart because the other thing I think which really helped them was Cooper in the middle of the field. So that allows for that when you got that kind of play going on in the middle of the field. He really secured the middle of that field last year.
Well, first of all, he's so strong. I mean, it was hard at his size for Travis Kelce, Cooper Kupp. You look at slot guys that had trouble getting off his jam. I called him Cooper the Jam. Yeah. Like his jam was as good as anybody. And even in the Super Bowl, Kelce had trouble getting off the line of scrimmage on him. So he's got no fear. Like, if you miss a jam like that against a guy like Cooper Kupp, like Stafford's going to hit him. But he was so disruptive. And that's a big part of, playing that type of defense is you're disrupting the route, the release, the connection between the quarterback and the receiver. And so he was a big part of their success and why they were the number 1 defensive football down the stretch and why they, they had 13 takeaways in the postseason.
I know. Insane. Let's look at flip side now, because I'm going to continue on the theme of defense. And you look at that Eagles offense with a new OC and Kevin Patullo. How would you defend the Eagles? Like, what would you do going into this year? Like, all right, this is the off season. We saw them last year. How would you play them?
I would blitz like crazy. I'd do what Todd Bowles does. I'd come after Jalen. I'd try to get what Rex did. Like I would just try to get free hitters coming at Jalen. Let him make, because can he find the hot? I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying this is what they got to anticipate. All right. That's what they're going to do in Washington to Philadelphia. That's what Tampa's going to do. They're going to come after him. They're going to try to overload pressures, try to get a free hitter, to the side. Now, the Eagles are a very good pass blocking offense line, but if you can break down their protection and get free hitters or guys one-on-one, we called it Bob type situation where you got a back on a backer.
Yeah.
Put Saquon, not let him out, keep him in. He's not the best pass protector. It's been an issue with him, and get him having to protect in the backfield there, or AJ Dillon if he's in the game. Like, that's what I would do. I would try to come after him. Look, if you give up the big play to AJ or Devontae, you got to live with it. Maybe it backs you off. Maybe it doesn't. But at the same time, I'm trying to speed up the decision making of the quarterback.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other issue I would do, the other thing I wouldn't do is, when they loaded the box against Saquon, it does. You talked about creases earlier when we were talking about the 46 defense. Those home runs came off of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you're eliminating the second layer of defense. You got them up at the line of scrimmage, and so if you get a crease, the way the Eagles were able to crease, the way that they work on run blitzes with Stoutland, and you're able to get Saquon into the crease. There's an old offensive line coach, Alex Gibbs. And Alex Gibbs basically introduced with Mike Shanahan the zone stretch. It's one of the reasons why they had so much success with any running back in Denver. And then in Washington, Alfred Morris at one point led in the history of the Washington Redskins, was their leading rusher, right? But regardless, like, Alex believed that corners don't tackle, make corners tackle, block safeties. So he has those receivers blocking safeties. The corners, every once in a while, you get a good, like Quignon's a good tackling corner. But make them tackle, make them prove that they can tackle, let those guys go.